breaking. Mike Johnson just hit the meltdown button. He torched the lawsuit, and MAGA feels the betrayal. Why? Power, chaos, a potential cover-up. The Oversight Committee bragged about releasing files, but here's the truth. They dumped 1 gigabyte while the FBI says 300 gigabytes exist. 1 out of 300. That's a collapse of transparency. Democrat O'Connor and Republican Massie both confirmed the numbers. Bipartisan alarm bells. Our democracy can't run on crumbs while the stake stays hidden. Who benefits from this darkness? Who ordered the walkout on the truth? If Johnson ended the fight, what's buried in the 299 gigabytes they refuse to show? Stay.
Sought and much more. It's important to just get to the bottom of this, though, when that is said, if that argument is made, to point out that that is false. Because the Oversight Committee, they are doing work, but they are releasing documents that are only a fraction of what exist. According to O'Connor on the committee, and obviously he's a Democrat, Massie, a Republican, the files are just 1 gigabyte. 1 gigabyte of what the Oversight Committee has. That's what they have. There are 300 gigabytes of files that are known that the FBI said exist. So that is 1/300th of the total, right? And much of that 1/300th was already known to be public.
Patriots, tonight the mask slips in Washington. When the powerful feel threatened by sunlight, they don't debate. They stall, they sneer, and they hide the ball. And somehow, the people paying the price are the voters who sent their representative to do a job.
Forcing Speaker Johnson's hand on the Epstein investigation. In a major escalation tonight, the Attorney General of Arizona and Congresswoman-elect Adelita Grijalva of Arizona are suing Mike Johnson. And they're suing him because Grijalva has not been sworn in. So what does all this have to do with Jeffrey Epstein? Because it does at its heart. Grijalva is the final vote needed for a bipartisan maneuver called a discharge petition that goes around Johnson. Goes around Johnson because he does not want a vote to release the full Epstein files. This would go around him, get that vote to release the files. Grijalva was elected in Arizona 28 days ago, a whole month. And Johnson has, in that time, used every excuse not to swear her in.
Look, we'll schedule it, I guess, as soon as she wants. It has nothing to do with...
As soon as the Democrats vote to reopen the government.
She deserves to have all the pomp and circumstance that everybody else does. Have her family and friends in the balcony.
But,
so if she flies in her family, would you guys do it?
Grijalva, she'll get the full bells and whistles. It hasn't been scheduled because we don't schedule things for pro forma.
Here's the situation in plain English. An Arizona Congresswoman-elect, Adelaide Grijalva, isn't being sworn in. Why does that matter? Because one more signature could force a straight up or down vote to release the full Epstein files. And the Speaker's office has been dragging feet like it's an Olympic sport. That's not a left-right thing. That's a transparency thing. It's a who's protecting whom thing.
And when Grijalva called Johnson out on not swearing her in, and doing it, she says, to protect Jeffrey Epstein and his high-powered clients, Johnson had this to say.
Bless her heart, she's a representative-elect. She doesn't know how it works around here.
Well, putting the condescension aside, she does know she's supposed to be sworn in. That, of course, is Democracy 101, right? You get elected by the people of your state and you get sworn in. That's democracy. And tonight, the Arizona Attorney General, Chris Mays, whom I'll be speaking to in just a moment, writes, and I quote in this lawsuit, Speaker Johnson has not identified any valid reason for refusing to promptly seat Ms. Grijalva. Instead, on information and belief, Speaker Johnson wishes to delay seating Ms. Grijalva to prevent her from signing a discharge petition that would force a vote on the release of the Epstein files. And just a few moments ago, Johnson just responded.
We've heard the excuses, scheduling, ceremony. When Democrats do X, then we'll do Y. That kind of beltway barter treats 813,000 Arizonans like props, taxed without representation while the game drags on. Our movement didn't fight to drain the swamp so it could learn new tricks. We fought for equal justice and full disclosure.
I think it's patently absurd. We run the House. She has no jurisdiction. We're following the precedent. She's looking for national publicity. Apparently she's gotten some of it, but good luck with that.
Johnson on defense, and it is not just because of this specific lawsuit that was just filed. It is actually because Republicans, members of his own party in the House, are speaking out. Because Many of them want the Epstein files released now, and they know that Grijalva's vote is the key to that.
It baffles me. To me, this is the easiest one to do. This is standing up for women and children who are raped, who are victims of sex trafficking. And this is for victims that are facing horrible consequences right now due to abuse. And I can't understand why this has been seemingly the biggest fight in Washington, D.C. It certainly shouldn't be.
Then came the eye roll line. Bless her heart. That's the club talking down to the voters' choice. Sorry, but the Constitution doesn't come with a velvet rope list. You get elected, you get sworn in, period.
She's completely right about that. It all comes on the same day the memoir of the most high-profile Epstein accuser, Virginia Giuffre, was published. Giuffre died by suicide after the decades of suffering she endured. She died earlier this year. But before she took her own life, she documented the unimaginable abuse that she suffered because of Jeffrey Epstein and his accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell, who, of course, is convicted. Abuse that Virginia writes from, quote, came from a multitude of powerful men. Among them were a gubernatorial candidate who was soon to win election in a Western state and a former U.S. senator. Since Epstein usually neglected to introduce me to these men by name or introduce them at all, I would only learn who some of them were years later when I studied photographs of Epstein's associates and recognized the faces of those I was forced to have sex with.
Now, Arizona's Attorney General says the quiet part out loud in a filing. There's no valid reason for the delay, and the effect is to block a discharge petition to force the Epstein files vote. You don't have to agree with her politics to recognize the court claim. The stall protects secrecy, not the people.
Giuffre even documents her abuse from a prime minister. In that case, she writes that he, quote, wasn't interested in caresses, he wanted violence. He repeatedly choked me until I lost consciousness and took pleasure in seeing me in fear for my life. Horrifically, the prime minister laughed when he hurt me and got more aroused when I begged him to stop. I mean, this is despicable stuff. It's pretty awful to have to sit here and even read sentences like that. Never mind to imagine there's a person who wrote them because they happened to her. Because not one of those men has been held accountable. Not one. And many of them, right now, as we speak, are in circles of high society. Their friends might even see this. Their friends might even suspect or know, but they're just continuing along in high society. And that is wrong. And they must face accountability. Releasing the Epstein files, it should not be one of the biggest fights in Washington. Marjorie Taylor Greene is right about that. And perhaps Johnson is starting to feel the pressure because earlier today he was on the defense about the Epstein vote, saying to Politico, quote, the bipartisan House Oversight Committee is already accomplishing what the discharge petition, the gambit, sought and much more.
Let's step back. For years, we were told the Epstein story was tabloid, then old news, then nothing more to see. And yet the names, the flights, the calendars keep hovering like a storm that never quite passes. Sunlight ends rumor. Sunlight restores trust. Sunlight is what America First has demanded from the start. Even Republicans on Capitol Hill are saying it's a no-brainer. Stand with victims, open the files, and stop treating this like a nuclear launch code. That's not partisan. That's basic decency.
It's important to just get to the bottom of this, though, when that is said, if that argument is made, to point out that that is false. Because the Oversight Committee, they are doing work, but they are releasing documents that are only a fraction of what exist. According to O'Connor on the committee, he and obviously he's a Democrat, Massie a Republican, the files are just 1 gigabyte. 1 gigabyte of what the Oversight Committee has. That's what they have. There are 300 gigabytes of files that are known that the FBI said exist. So that is 1/300th of the total. Right? And much of that 1/300th was already known to be public. Johnson knows all of this. So when he is claiming he is all for transparency in this, and when it comes to Epstein, saying if it hits 218, it comes to the floor, that's how it works. If you get the signatures, it goes to a vote. Well, of course, in a sense, that's talking in circles because you only get to 218 why did we just talk about Epstein for a few minutes? Because you actually have to seat Congresswoman-elect Adelita Grijalva. She has to be sworn in. That is the 218th vote. And perhaps Grijalva herself has said it best. Here's what she told me.
The Speaker's counter is that the Oversight Committee is already accomplishing what a discharge petition would do. If that were true, this wouldn't even be a story. Partial sunlight isn't sunlight. A keyhole isn't a window.
So if this has nothing to do with the Epstein files, then swear me in.
Chris Mays is the Democratic Attorney General of Arizona. She's out front. She, along with Congresswoman-elect Grijalva, has just filed a lawsuit against the House of Representatives for refusing to seat Grijalva. And this is the Attorney General's first interview since filing that suit. So, Attorney General Mays, I appreciate your time. And, we have this breaking news. You're filing the suit. And just moments ago, we heard from Speaker Johnson just responding to your suit. He says, and I quote him, "It's patently absurd. We run the House. She has no jurisdiction," end quote. What do you say to him? What's the basis for your lawsuit?
And we're told what's out is a sliver, about a gigabyte, versus hundreds of gigabytes that reportedly exist. If there's a 300-to-1 gap between what Washington has and what the public sees, you're not witnessing transparency. You're witnessing management.
Well, what we're saying to him and what we're asking a court to do is, declare that if Mike Johnson refuses to do his job, that Adelita Grijalva can be sworn in by a judge or any other person with the capability under the law to swear her in. And Mike Johnson can end this tomorrow by swearing Adelita in. She was duly elected by the people of Arizona, and we now have 813,000 Arizonans who are being taxed without representation in our state because Mike Johnson refuses to swear her in. So, we didn't want to have to file this lawsuit, but it's been 4 weeks now, Erin, since she was elected. 4 weeks where she has not been able to do her job, serve her constituents. We've got issues here, including flooding in her district.
Here's the through line the media won't say. Delay keeps the club safe. Delay protects the Rolodex. Delay preserves the headlines for who they choose, when they choose. America First says the opposite. Open the books, let the chips fall, and stop pretending the public can't handle the truth. We can, we must. And the math is simple. To force a vote, you need signatures. To get those signatures, you seat the duly elected member. To seat the member, you stop playing procedural games and swear her in. The Speaker himself has said, if it hits 218, it comes to the floor. Then stop blocking the 218th. That's not strategy, that's circular logic. So Arizona sues, not because it's fun to sue the House, but because 813,000 people are stuck watching their seats sit empty while Washington argues about pageantry. The AG's remedy is straightforward. If the Speaker won't perform the oath, a judge can. It shouldn't come to that, but here we are.
She hasn't been able to serve veterans and deal with other issues like Social Security. It's time. Time's up.
So how quickly, you're saying a judge could do this, someone could get her seated right away. How quickly do you expect this lawsuit to move? I mean, essentially, is this something that could really result in her getting seated, sworn in by a judge or somebody in the next day or two? Or is this something more to make a point of precedent, and by the time this all works its way through, Johnson will have eventually done it?
Well, I wish Johnson would do it right now. In fact, I believe the Congresswoman-elect is in D.C. right now. He could walk over to her office right now and do it. Look, we are hoping that this lawsuit results quickly in Adelita Grijalva being sworn in.
Ask yourself, who benefits from keeping the Epstein files bottled up? Not the victims, not the voters, not parents who want predators exposed, prosecuted, and put away. The only winners are the ones who fear what's in the pages, who visited where, who knew what, who looked away. We don't have to speculate about names tonight to defend a principle. Full disclosure is how you collapse conspiracy theories and expose actual conspiracies. I'm going to say something that'll bother some Republicans. This is the moment for courage, not caucus management. The base didn't elect Republicans to play hall monitor, while the most notorious trafficking case in modern memory stays under wraps. The base elected fighters. Fighters don't hide the ball. And yes, the media will try to frame this as Democrats versus Johnson. Wrong frame. This is the American people versus secrecy. It's the public's right to know versus the political instinct to control embarrassment. if your first reflex is to delay the swearing in of a duly elected member because it might unlock a transparency vote, you've chosen the swamp over the republic. The AG says they reached out, got no engagement, and now hear only TV sound bites in response, plus a claim that the Constitution somehow allows this stall. It doesn't. Representation is not a favor from leadership. It's a mandate from the people.
And, you know, we're going to a judge in Washington, D.C., asking that judge to declare that she is eligible to be sworn in. And if Mike Johnson and the House of Representatives, run by the Republicans right now, refuse to do it, that someone else can do it so she can.
Have you had any interactions with Speaker Johnson about this? I mean, I know you had initially sent a letter to him. That was 8 days ago, and you threatened the lawsuit. And now he's responding, obviously, in the statement that we have. But have you had any interaction with him at all at this point?
I mean, sadly, no. I mean, all we have heard from Speaker Johnson is basically comments on shows like yours, and you know, he has not responded directly to us, and he's basically thumbing his nose at 813,000 Arizonans who don't have a representative. And my state is now down a representative. That's not okay. It violates the Constitution. It violates the law.
Let me speak directly to Speaker Johnson, respectfully but plainly. Sir, you have a choice. Be the man who trusted the people, swore in their representative, and put this issue on the floor. Win or lose, or be the man who taught America that even with a slim majority, the House can deny a seat long enough to keep the public in the dark. One path honors the office. The other path feeds the cynicism that's killing trust in every institution in this country. And to my fellow conservatives, we don't defend elites from scrutiny. We defend children. We defend the law. We defend due process for the accused and the right of the people to see what their government is keeping in a vault. That's America first, truth first, sunlight first, country first. The swamp loves process more than honesty. It loves the comfort of, we'll get back to you, more than the discomfort of a recorded vote. Force the vote, seat the member, release the files. If there are innocent explanations, great. Put them on the record. If there are guilty parties, no matter how wealthy or well-connected, bring accountability. That's the promise we made. Because every day this gets dragged out, another American shrugs and says, they're all the same. No, they're not. Leadership is the difference. Courage is the difference. The willingness to take heat in the sunlight is the difference. This isn't about scoring a news cycle. It's about saying to victims, to parents, to taxpayers, your government answers to you, not the other way around. Swear her in, bring the petition, roll the cameras, and let the truth breathe. We'll close where we began, with a simple test of integrity. When confronted with the choice between comfort and clarity, the American answer is always clarity. That's how a free nation stays free. Seat the member, open the files, do the job.